decade of the second half of the 20th century.
And although Lord Buckley may have become a footnote in the history of popular culture, as always, it was artists who existed on the margins or who had been cast aside by modern tastes that Waits drew inspiration from. As he developed his onstage and recording persona, Buckley was a key ingredient.
I think when Waits is delivering things that have got that rolling rhythm and that energy, and he uses lingo, he doesn't use 50s hipster lingo quite so self-consciously. It's a slightly different slant on it. But whenever you've got that energy and that theatrical color, where he can crescendo to a sort of fairground bark, and then diminuendo right down to something intimate and slightly sinister. You know, that's all Buckley. Buckley does that all the time. So when Waits is on that roll where the theatrical colors are flying and the resonance is there, then that's when you hear Buckley. Particularly on tracks like Step Right Up, where you hear him rolling and rolling and rolling, and Buckley at its best was unstoppable.
Act now, and receive it, I give to you. Come in all colors and one size fits all. No muss, no fuss, no spills. Are you tired of kitchen drudgery? Everything must go. Going out a penny, going out a penny, going out a penny, going out a penny. Going out a penny, going out a penny, going out a penny, going out a penny, going out a penny. 50% off original retail prices. And you can skip the middleman. I set up his ass with a frozen dish rag, but all you gotta do is bend right over and step right up.
This isn't improvised comedy. This is not improvised prose. This is predetermined, rehearsed, and delivered as a theatrical performance.
The idea of the cabaret performer, the jazz sort of performer, and the hipster comedian, Tom would have been very conscious of those people and aware of that sort of stage performance and stage persona, and the sort of offbeat quips that he brings between his songs and the storytelling. You definitely get that in elements of Lord Buckley. Also, I think some of his between song bits are very elaborately worked out jokes. Some of the jokes you kind of inherit historically, some from experiences that he's had.
I saw a place just outside on Western, a place that sells used erotica. Think about it. What, do they clean it? Who cleans it? Are they licensed? All these questions came to my head. How used is it? Who used it? You follow me? There's a theater right up Western with 7 X's, you know? I mean, double X, okay, triple X, 7 X's. Girls without skin. That's all I could think. You know? That I want to see.
I think that any hardcore Waits fan would readily admit that Tom could have made a career as a stand-up comedian. I mean, he's really incredibly funny. He can hold the stage like few other performers can, and the between song bits are often the funniest and most engaging parts of the show. And then he'll flip it. He'll turn it into a song that's just heartbreaking, and so you get this breadth of experience when you attend a Tom Waits show that you don't with a lot of other performers. But I think that his between song patter is definitely something that owes a little more to those cabaret performers, people like Lord Buckley.
Waits' admiration for the less conventional artists who had emerged on the peripheries of the beat movement led him to investigate work that crossed the boundaries of music, humor, and poetry. In interviews throughout the 1970s, when listing his influences alongside Kerouac and Buckley, he would often cite the even more marginal work of Ken Nordine. A pioneer in the world of spoken word jazz, Nordine was both a lyrical and a musical inspiration for Waits.
Ken Nordine was one of the most successful voiceover artists on American TV and radio through the 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond. He was someone whose voice everybody knew, selling them everything from Brill cream to shoe polish. Beautiful voice, realized quite early on that his voice was going to be his fortune, and the obvious place to go is the voiceover. But he's also, as it turns out, an artist. And his idea was to create something that he dubbed word jazz.
Released by Dot Records in 1957, Nordine's word jazz album was utterly unique. Featuring his inimitable syrupy narration backed by Chico Hamilton's jazz group, it was the spare but brilliant use of language and Nordine's surreal, darkly humorous critiques of modern American life that distinguished his work from the spoken word experiments of the more established beat poets.
When you think of the words themselves, they're like little icons. They're not the real thing. When you say earth, that isn't earth. If you say world, that isn't the world. It's a word that has all kinds of reactions in people. It's almost a disembodied intelligence that you can play with, like tinker toys, putting them together.
In a dream I dreamt that was no dream, in a sleep I slept that was no sleep. I met the junk man in his scattered yard. There in a twilight of talk, my ears stared at the wag of his broken jaw as he ranted over the rule of ruin. And within my rusting headpiece, here where all metals turn inward, I eyed his arguments as a bargain of beads strung on the grieving yesterdays. And the junk man's words circled about my bee-free brain like crippled wings on a broken bird. No real flight in it. Come hold hands with me in this stagger of dark.
Language is, if you make it too strict, it becomes doggerel in its quality. So I try to think of it as I'm diving into a pool of words and swimming around. It's serious, silly, it's sad, happy. It's thinking about thinking.
If you do something long enough, even something that you don't like, that you might even hate, you can begin to do it well enough to make everyone else think you love it. You can even fool yourself if you're not careful, I know. I'm very good at fooling myself.
Every now and again you hear somebody who just slightly changes your life for the better, and he's one of those guys. Because he was so calm and his voice was so syrupy and luxurious, and he gave space around what he said, he allowed everything he said to just resonate in your own imagination before moving on. It was almost the antithesis of the way the beats would hammer you with images and rolling, tumultuous kind of prose. He would just give you little pithy statements for you to dwell on. This is a man who understands economy. He understands rhythm and the use of space. He understands more than probably you do. When you're listening to him, on the one hand, it can be taken as just sort of slightly odd and slightly strange and quite funny. But on the other hand, it seems to have quite a deep philosophical pull to it as well.